India recently observed its 77th Independence Day. The occasion serves as a poignant reminder of the power of determination, resilience, and self reliance in shaping the destiny of a nation. It symbolizes the aspirations and struggles of countless individuals who fought for the right to chart their course. Now, in the realm of personal finance, financial independence mirrors this spirit by enabling individuals to assert control over their economic well being. It empowers us to break free from monetary limitations, dependency, and uncertainty constraints. Now, just as our nation fought for sovereignty, we too can strive for financial autonomy where we have the freedom to make choices, pursue our dreams, and secure our future. Financial independence can be within the reach for anyone with careful planning and effort. Setting clear goals, creating a budget, and saving consistently are vital steps towards achieving financial independence. By making informed investment decisions, reducing debt, and continuously educating oneself about personal finance, individuals can steadily progress towards their goal of financial freedom. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Gautam Srinivasan, and we have gathered here today for the Nivesh Mahakumbh 2023 Path to Financial Freedom. Now, this one of a kind investor awareness initiative launched by Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC Limited in association with Hindustan Times will delve into the diverse dimensions of financial independence concerning various retail investor demographics. We'll be starting this event by reciting our national anthem. Indeed, Jai Hai to our nation and Jai Hai to our right to financial independence. On that note, we'll now listen to a rendition of the Aditya Vandana.
आदित्यः सविता सूर्या खगः भूषा गभस्तिमान् सुवर्णसदृशो भानुर्विश्वरेता दिवाकरः
गच्छामि कराभाय हरये विश्वकर्मणे नमस्तमो विघ्नाय कुजये लोकसाक्षिणे जयाय जय भद्राय हर्षवाय नमो नमः सहस्रांश आदित्याय नमो नमः आदित्याय नमो नमः
onwards to a sunny financial future. Continuing this tone of inspiration, I'd like to now invite Mr. K.S. Rao, Head of Investor Education and Distribution Development at Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC Limited, to share his thoughts before we start today's proceedings. Over to you, Mr. Rao.
Thank you so much, Gautam. And indeed, it's an honor to be here. And thanks for making the next Nivesh Mahakumbh happen. And the great start. Start with the national anthem. Start with Aditya Vandana. And there is one line which comes in: excellence is always a moving target. And for us, financial independence do also become a moving target. And if you need to work on. And thank you so much. Good morning, friends. Indeed, it's a great opportunity to connect with you on this morning. And I invite you all for this wonderful webinar based Nivesh Mahakumbh from Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company. And as Gautam was just talking about, it is the 77th Independence Day, which we just celebrated. And this weekend, we are talking about our own financial independence. It is an Amrit Kal we talk about. I mean, our Honorable Prime Minister, who has given a path, next 25 years, which started last year, 2047, as the country celebrates Independence Day, it is going to be the developed economy. And this developing to the developed, the journey of the nation has started. It is for all of us how we can start our journey in this. And with this Amrit Kal, every Indian investor need to get into the prosperity. That's where we intend to. And incidentally, as of last month, from Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management, we have this vertical called Investor Education and Distribution Development, which we started these investor education programs 10 years back. We just completed 1 decade, and with this 1 decade, we had reached out. We organized over 10,000 programs, and we have reached out to 10 lakh people, and we also reached out to over 10 millions on various other initiatives. Our regulator, SEBI, always says educated investors, empowered investor, and informed investor. And this is our intention, is to create that empowered and impacted investor. And you would have surprised what is this Nivesh Mahakumbh all about. Some of you who are coming for the first time. And we started this journey way back in 2015. It is Central India, Jabalpur, the first Nivesh Mahakumbh on ground. And that is a time where the Nashik Kumbh was happening. And we all aware, in India, it is a spiritual fair we do. It's a Kumbh Mela every 4 years at this rivers where we take auspicious rivers. We take that holy bath, and it is believed that it purifies your soul. And here for the Nivesh Mahakumbh, one doesn't need to take that physical dip, but you need to understand that dip, which is all about the financial literacy. The financial literacy is about that dip is DIP. For me, that is an acronym. It's a delayed gratification, and I is an impact of inflation. P is the power of compounding. And between this, how you run. And today's webinar, as the financial independence, and it's talking about the theme is path to financial freedom. As we are on the embarking on the mission to Amrit Kal, how each of us can have that path to the financial freedom, financial independence. And financial independence is something like state of having enough financial resources so that we can have a flexibility of living a life of our choice, and we can have enough money for our future so that it can take care of us. It is being free from the stress and struggle which is coming in lack of finances. And that's where the freedom which we get it is a choice we are making it, and it's a choice which we all value. And financial freedom doesn't mean that I need to have a huge bank balance, and I have a choice to spend the way I want. It is about what I value and how I need to look at, and how my money is sufficient for me to take care of my future. Recently, we have written an article on an Indian Independence Day, how those 10 commandments can work on the financial freedom. Probably I will just dwell on those few commandments which I can look at. The biggest thing is the first commandment I look at is you need to get there to get your financial independence. It's a clear financial goals. And once you set clear financial goals, then you need to start acting to it. Commandment 2 is starting early to it. Then starting early doesn't mean just investing, but you need to have the financial prudence. Financial prudence is your income minus expense is equal to saving, or income minus saving is equal to expense. How you can redefine the formula, and how you need to avoid the debt which is a high cost, and where you need to build the assets, not the liabilities. Then the fourth commandment is how you can diversify your investments. And fifth one is you should have a long-term approach, because in the short term market is highly volatile and there could be a fluctuation which may take you away from the, it may distract you from the goal. Then you need to have a long-term approach. Then the sixth commandment is, you need to, I think Gautam was talking earlier, continuously educated, staying well informed. World is changing faster, markets will move faster, and how you need to get there. And the seventh commandment, I mean, I come from the mutual fund industry, and many of you would have heard mutual funds IA and the campaigns of SIPs. Mutual fund SIP could be the one campaign in our journey, and we have an exclusive session today how these SIPs can make you to that financial freedom, and that is the seventh commandment. Eighth commandment is, periodically reviewing your portfolios and looking at and rebalancing it. And ninth commandment you need to look at is how you can manage your emotions, and how you need to look at your professional financial, the 10th commandment is get one right financial advisor. Here, just before I I dwell on something else, I would like to talk to you a couple of things. It's a, as I said earlier, income minus expense. Similarly, there is a, at a lower end of when you start your career, it is a income minus expense is equal to savings, but income minus savings is equal to expense. Here the gap between an income and expense, we talk income and as we grow up, I mean, financial freedom, why it will become a moving target. I mean, once you reach to a substantial wealth, there is a between income and there is an ego. And what you need to do is you need to get that independence, keeping the ego out of your income, so that you don't need to have that car which your neighbor owns. I mean, probably what you deserve you can get there, and that's where you need to look at. I mean, take care of one. And third is the expectations which we get it. Today we are talking about Amrit Kal. There is a, we always look at market forward, but you need to look at the, I mean, not the forecast, look at the history. Things may not be always great, and you need to be take care of that. Then you need to look what kind of impact you can look at. This is one session, we have an exclusive, and then we have a separate session for you. And there's a master class from my CIO, Mr. Mahesh Patil. And then you have also have a session which is talking about the retirement plan. We call it as a golden age plan. That is a GAP. And incidentally, this is a GAP for most of us. It is a gap. We tend to postpone our golden age plan because it's a very long-term dream, and we don't even look at that is immediately I need to accomplish. And that's the reason we postpone. And probably for me, that golden age, if you have to get gold out of your golden age, gold is an acronym for me. That is a G is, you need to gainfully engaged and gainfully invested too. And the O is optimally invested. L is your lifestyle, how you can look at how you define your lifestyle, and D is the discipline, not the distraction. Probably we can have this look old stuff of it. And there will be an exclusive session today, and most of us, it's like at Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management, last couple of years we have embarked, we do a lot of community engagements. For example, for Faujis, we have a Fauji Nivesh teachers, there is a separate program for us, and we have a doctors. Similarly, for the exclusive for the women, I mean, celebrating the India's women power, we have launched an initiative called For Her. This is a vision of my boss, my CEO, Mr. Balasubramaniam, and we have a mission to lead every woman in the country to reach to the financial freedom. That's financial independence. And we have an exclusive session where we today why the freedom for the women need to take an active participation, because there is a large number of women are joining in the working force, and in the last 2 years we have seen 1/3 of the new folios are coming from the women, and women need to get educated on the financial independence, and that's where we need to look at. And women tend to live little longer, and there is also going to be a larger inheritance which is going to happen. And I was doing a session in Banaras in the university. There is one economist who was there who was mentioning to me there is why it is the important of the financial educating the women. He said the day we are getting the heart of the home economy will become the center of the Indian economy. Means if every woman participates, that's where we can get that true independence, true financial independence to the family. And this is like my boss keeps saying, if you are educating a man, you are educating one person. If you are educating a woman, you are educating the entire family. This is where the financial education for women, we have a session. And today we also talk about SIP. I mean, we have launched a campaign called Gargar SIP and Gargar Mutual Fund Hargar SIP. For me, SIP is, though it looks a simple tool, but it can become a broader one. We will have a deliberations on this because I mean, there is one quote which Mr. Warren Buffett said, the only way to achieve the financial independence is to start saving and investing early and investing often. And probably this is where the SIP works in. That SIP for me is SIP, that is stepping into the prosperity. And today, asset managements in the mutual funds in the country, we have little over 6.8 crores of SIP accounts. Over last 10 years, it's almost become 6 to 7 folds. And today we get a little over 16,000 crores of SIP money, and SIP has become a true momentum in the country. With this, I will invite you all for this session, and it's a financial independence is not an event; it's a journey. Keep joining us and keep working on it, and it's about continuously learning and educating. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much, Gautam, and wishing a wonderful session today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao. Indeed, some golden words of advice, and it's all about sense and sensibility, especially as you look forward to staying the course on your journey for financial independence. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for joining in and sharing your thoughts on the topic. On that note, we will be starting with our first segment on reimagining retirement. Stay tuned for that.
Hello, my name is Tushar. I got my first job 2 years ago. The use of ride sharing apps and autos was often inconvenient, so instead I decided to get my own bike. The only hitch being that the bike would cost 1.5 lakh rupees. I set a date for the bike purchase, which in my case was a year. I looked at the EMI amount, had I taken a loan, and instead started putting that money in mutual funds via the SIP route. A fixed amount every month would get deducted from my bank account 2 days after my salary was credited. I did a lot of research and realized that the majority of my SIP should go in low duration, short term debt funds. I consider myself lucky that the markets kept rising and the value of my investments and SIP grew. I was able to buy my bike in 10 months instead of the 1 year target that I had. My learning in this journey has been that mutual fund investments and SIPs can help you realize your short and medium term dreams.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
When we got married, we stayed with my parents, but when we started our own family and we had our own kids, we thought we needed more space for them to grow. And given that what these houses cost these days, it was in our best interest to make our money grow. And that's when we decided to go into mutual fund monthly investment via SIP route.
We not only wanted our money to grow, but also to protect it.
Since the investment is distributed across asset classes, we wanted our money to grow irrespective of the adverse market conditions in the future.
We started investing in these funds almost 8 years ago. We ensured that the investments were made every month without fail. Discipline was important. By last year, we had grown our investments to not just meet a large part of our home purchase, but its renovation as well.
And the best part is, these investments are not just good investment, they are tax friendly and cost effective as well.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Well, a comprehensive conversation on achieving financial freedom would be inadequate without exploring the concept of retirement, undoubtedly one of the most significant financial objectives for investors. Now, the era has evolved, and relying solely on conventional investment vehicles is no longer deemed satisfactory for ensuring a financially secure retirement. The approach to retirement investment needs to be reconsidered in today's world. Retirement investing in India demands a fresh perspective, steering away from traditional strategies to embrace innovative approaches that adapt to changing financial landscapes. Now, fortunately, the current financial landscape offers an array of flexible tools and investment options, allowing retirement planning to become a more imaginative endeavor. In this section, our specialists will outline the evolving landscape of retirement preparation and explain how you can capitalize on these changes to your advantage. We have with us Vinod Bhatt, Portfolio Manager and Equity Strategist at Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC Limited, and joining him are Nirav Karkera, Head of Research at FISDM, and Kalpesh Usher from Full Circle Financial Planners and Advisors. Gentlemen, welcome to the show and looking forward to hearing your insights and expertise on the topic of reimagining retirement. Vinod, we'll start with you. Until recently, it was common for retail investors in India to be cynical about equity investments. But in the last few years, there has been a realization of sorts that relying solely on zero risk asset classes may not be prudent for long term goals. Now, considering the prevailing fear that continues to govern the decision making of many investors, I want to know from you, how can retail investors effectively balance risk and return when considering equity mutual funds as a retirement investment option?
Right. Yeah, thanks, Gautam. First of all, thanks for having me for this session. And as you correctly mentioned, more and more retail investors are moving away just from the traditional asset classes of FDs, real estate, and gold, and looking at newer asset classes. So whether it's equities, fixed income, commodities, REITs, InvITs, and so on. So when one thinks of a long-term goal like retirement, it's important to get the asset allocation right? And to do that, you have to consider two factors. The first is our age and how many years we have to retirement. And second is our current assets or net worth and income and what kind of corpus we are targeting to have by a retirement age, right? Because these two factors essentially determine a risk profile, whether we can be aggressive, moderate, or conservative, right? So a young investor who can expect that his income will increase going forward can afford to be aggressive. Somebody in their 40s can become a little bit more moderate, and somebody who's cross 50s can be a little bit more conservative, right? And what that translates into is what kind of equity exposure one should have in the overall asset allocation, right? So typically an aggressive investor will target a median equity level of about 70-75%. A moderate investor can target equity level of 50%, and a conservative investor can target an equity exposure of around 25-30%, right? And of the remaining allocation can be to other asset classes, whether it's fixed income or commodities like gold and silver and so on, right? Now, so that is the first decision to make, right? What should be the equity exposure in the asset allocation? The second is, because you asked me to focus on equity, so within the equity exposure, how can we have a diversified portfolio, right? Now, so what we recommend is that of the equity portion, around 25-30% should be allocated to the large cap mutual fund categories, because these are more stable and they are lower risk, so they provide stability to the portfolio. Around 30-35% can be to the diversified category, which covers flexi cap funds, large and mid cap funds, and multi cap funds, right? So two-thirds of the portfolio, of the equity portfolio, should be allocated to the large cap and the diversified category. Now, in the remaining one third, 15-20% can be to slightly higher risk categories like mid cap funds and small cap funds, and the newly launched maybe micro cap funds. All of this fit in the 15-20% allocation, and the remaining 15-20% allocation can be to sectoral thematic categories, right? So here one can take their pick, like what sectors or themes one finds interesting, what is positive on for the next 2-3 years. But one has to bear in mind that the investors should be a little bit more nimble-footed when it comes to the sectoral thematic allocation, because these go in and out of vogue, right? So So that's a broad diversification one can keep within the equity allocation. And the key decisions here are kind of, how do you increase or decrease your large cap and mid cap and small cap exposure. So that's where one area where the investors can be a little bit nimble footed. And second is, like I mentioned, within the sectoral thematic allocation, how you can do sector rotation. And of course, if investors, if they are, let's say, busy with their job or their business, and they think we don't have the time, we don't have the capability, we don't have the interest in doing all of this, then the simplest thing they can do is just invest in, say, a multi-asset allocation fund or a balanced advantage fund or an asset allocation fund or fund, where the fund manager will take these decisions for them in terms of the asset allocation and which underlying stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs to invest in. But broadly, this would be kind of a way to for an investor to keep their life simple and still achieve their long-term goal of retirement.
Absolutely. And it's this expanding universe of investment products which has given a certain amount of flexibility to a lot of plans, whether it's staying the course and, of course, moving forward after retirement. That was the view from the equity universe. I also want to understand more about the debt fund universe. And Nirav, I'll bring you in for that, because debt mutual funds, they're often seen as more stable investments. So could you highlight how they can contribute to a well-rounded retirement portfolio and the factors that investors should consider in this regard?
Absolutely. Debt is probably one of the most underrated asset classes. Generally when people talk about wealth creation, we tend to lean pretty heavily against equities in terms of our expectations of returns and building a corpus, right? But debt is really underappreciated. The first and foremost thing that most investors must understand and acknowledge is that debt is not a non-equity component. That's not the way to look at it. Debt brings in its own unique features. So the most important features of debt is income generation, capital appreciation, and then finally, obviously, it cushions against volatility that is inherent in equity and similar asset classes. So these are a few features that fixed income or debt brings in. To create a well-rounded portfolio, it is important to understand the role that plays in a portfolio, and one needs to allocate to debt. I'm sorry, there is some disturbance. That's why I'm just slightly
No
distracted.
worries. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
So while building a well-rounded portfolio, debt plays a more important and pivotal role than just diversifying against equity risk. One must allocate to debt in line with their risk appetite and their tenure to retirement, or the tenure that is remaining before they need the funds. So debt allocation needs to be matched with cash flow requirements in a way. Because there is much more visibility and much more predictability of returns, it can easily be mapped to the cash flow requirements that you have. So, for an investor seeking, income after X number of years, and he invests in a target maturity fund that matches that number of years, it ensures that the fund not only appreciates over the period, but also has the capability to generate periodic income. And because of this predictability, it also makes sense to, trigger an SWP, a systematic withdrawal plan in a debt fund, because you know how it is going to grow with a fair sense of confidence. Or else, if it is a normal, debt instrument, you can always, predict and plan your cash flows in line with the coupon payout. So debt plays this very important and pivotal role in creating a well-rounded portfolio.
Absolutely. And the two key themes which have emerged so far is the flexibility and the planning aspect when it comes to your investments. But of course, both those factors work really well if the starting point is early. So let me bring in Kalpesh for his view on that. Kalpesh, we've had many conversation around investments. So this question usually comes up from the audience when we toss it over to them as to, what is the age at which individuals ideally begin their retirement investing journey? And of course, how does the choice of starting age impact the growth of their retirement corpus over time? So explain to our viewers the necessity for starting early.
Thanks, Gautam, for having me on the show, and nice interacting with you after a while. The point of retirement and this very crucial topic, I think, plays in different minds in different ways, and everybody has its own perception about retirement and retirement age and the conventional age of retirement. And then you have nowadays youngsters who have started this concept of FIRE, which is the financially independent retirement early type of a concept. So, there are various thoughts and processes about it, but genuinely speaking, the conventional, or would you call it a cliched thing, is your retirement planning stroke wealth creation process should start from the moment you earn your first salary. I think nothing undermines that thing, but there's a lot of, I think, a planning required, and more importantly, a hand holding which you require from day one, because your mindset has to be in such a way that a youngster who gets this probably first salary or first stipend, or starts making his progression in the career, he wouldn't really be thinking that far off. So it is at that point of time, hitting it right at the bud, that you set aside even 5 to 10% of your first salary, then have a little bit of a party, then address to your needs and wants, and then start the process. But inculcating that process of saving or setting aside that amount for the long term has to be done very, very early. Now, once that has been inculcated, the idea of slowly progressing with it as your career progresses, as your income progresses, has to be inbuilt. But not to forget that as a person also progresses in his career, his life responsibility, life stages, all those things start evolving as well, for the positive, for the negative. And that is where the importance of financial planning comes very, very handy. And when you set aside a certain amount for the long term, and I'm talking here about the role of equities, it has to be done meticulously through a well worked out cash flow, because the amount you set aside should not be disturbed, and then that amount compounds. Because the moment you start digging into your retirement corpus or whatever wealth creation amount for the long term, the power of compounding breaks down, and again it's back to square one. So the process of financial planning, keeping all the five heads of financial planning intact, that is your cash flow, your net worth, your goal planning, your protection through insurance and taxation, all that working together helps you first set that amount aside for the long term wealth creation or retirement planning. Here the question